The 6 to 7 Figure Show, episode 69. Let's hit it.
Broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun outside Phoenix, Arizona. This is the 6 to 7 Figure Show. Tired of working so hard and having no time? Take your six-figure practice and turn it to a thriving seven-figure enterprise. And now, your host, author, speaker, mentor, and strategist, Frank Bria.
Welcome to the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I'm your host, Frank Bria, and today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Amanda Schneider. She is the proud mama of 3 boys, ages 11, 9, and 7, and 2 rescue dogs. Lives in Tempe, Arizona, just in our backyard, actually a little bit south of us, but with a lot more water than we have up here in Cave Creek. Amanda has a master's in education and a certified trainer in BankCode, which we're going to talk about. She's the founder of Abundance on Purpose, whose goal it is to coach clients in intentionally creating a life of consistent abundance, freedom, and flexibility. Amanda trains entrepreneurs and small businesses on the BANK methodology and uses the training and technology daily in her professional and personal relationships. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thanks for taking the time. So let's dig into, because that's intriguing. What is BankCode?
It is, contrary to what you may think when you hear bank, it is not a financial institution. It's a methodology. It's based in personality science. Dates back 2,500 years ago to Hippocrates, who had, took his patients and divided them up into 4 different groups, temperaments, and decided or learned that he could treat them differently based on their temperaments. So we've had all sorts of personality assessments developed through the years. There's nothing new there. There's usually 4, just like Hippocrates. And ours is the acronym BANK, Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. Where we differ, though, is instead of just having personality science and using a personality assessment, it's different because Sherry Tree, the founder who created it, reverse engineered it to, instead of looking at me, it's looking at your buyer, your potential customer. If you think about sales is simply influence. So it's, if you're in a conversation, if you're a parent and a child, if anything, we're all in sales at some point. So instead of looking at me, I'm going to look at who I'm talking to and adjust my communication to them.
That's really fascinating. I know a lot of people there are, I guess recently I've seen some sales trainers talking about sort of broad principles of matching verbal patterns of your buyer and things like that. But this is, I think, for a lot of people going to be sort of a new concept to actually think about personality typing the person that you're talking to and then figuring out. Can you give a couple of examples of how people use that?
Absolutely. So yeah, and I think, we've got these wonderfully successful salespeople in various ways. They just know how to do it, but they don't typically, if they have a team, know how to duplicate themselves. They just have this natural ability to really clue in and ask the right questions. And that's where BANK really resonated with me, because it's a very simple, quick, easy way. So we offer personality coding technology. We've got virtual tools, but really it all comes down to these, there's 4 simple cards. Each card has 12 values on them. And, literally if I go and I meet with a potential client or customer, I have an online link as well where you can see them online. So typically a lot of my work is online, but it's, hey, do me a favor before we meet. Click on this link or take these cards. There's 12 values on each card. Read through them, sort them in order of importance to you, most important down to least important. That's going to help me serve you better and save us some time. Who doesn't want to be served better and save some time? So it takes typically 60 to 90 seconds. Depending on some of their codes, it can take them a lot longer just because that's the nature of the code. Yeah. But within that short period of time, I now know where I need to really focus in on and where I should probably stay away from.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and it's interesting that you mentioned this whole concept of how some salespeople are just really good at this. And for us, sometimes it kind of looks like magic. They're able to read the room, or they're able to just pick up on little nuances that other people who sort of feel that they're not sort of natural salespeople, can't figure out. So it's really fascinating that you've got a way to sort of proceduralize this so that those of us who maybe aren't as skilled in that can pick this up.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways that where in the sales process would you kind of leverage these different value areas, and how would you sort of adapt the process?
When I picked up B.A.N.K, I had a company that I've had for 8 years, and B.A.N.K kind of came back across my radar back in December. And so when I got my, B.A.N.K pass, my technology, what I did was, it can come in at any point in the process. I went and sent the assessment out to all of my existing customers. And I just said, hey, I'm implementing this new tool. It's really important that I really serve you well and, connect with you better. So do me a favor and complete this quick assessment for me. Yeah. I use it for brand new prospects. Pretty much anybody I talk to, even in my personal life, if I'm going to engage in some sort of a business contract with somebody or hire somebody, that's like, I code them. I want to know who I'm dealing with. It just helps communication. So that's
great.
Yep.
And you're working with businesses as well, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a business coach.
Tell me a little bit about, tell us a little bit about how you work with them and what you do.
So I work with solopreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses primarily. I do come from a direct sales background, so there's a lot in that area as well. And I work with them on providing the tools, either the virtual tool version of this. We do have an AI that we just came out with, so you can plug in marketing materials like a website campaign or an email campaign or website copy, plug it into our tool and instantly get the code back. So you can identify, is my message reaching all 4 different codes, or do I need to kind of, work on my message a little bit to bring it up? So I educate about those tools and help them integrate those into their business. And then I'm also a trainer in this as well. So we offer live trainings. I love to come in and, to a sales meeting and just do a brief intro to this. And then if the company is wanting to invest more in it, we can tailor a package to come in and really get them versed in the methodology. And not only does it help with sales, but it helps, organizations and companies work and communicate better. My husband is an engineer at a major tech company, and he went through this 2-day training and came back and he's like, oh my gosh, this is huge. He's a high knowledge, and a couple high actions in the office were really irritating him. And once he's had that knowledge, he came back, and now their working relationship is a heck of a lot better. So yeah. So and just to educate the audience a little bit, knowledge would be. Do you want me to talk briefly
just a little bit, just so
Absolutely.
We can kind of get a
we'll start in order. So B.A.N.K, Blueprint is the first one. So think about, these are people that the color blue is more cool, so they're more conservative. If we use the box as an analogy, they're inside the box. They like systems and structure, remaining within budget, minimizing risk. Then we have action. Action is outside of the box. They may act like they had Red Bull for breakfast. They like VIP treatment. They need to be the leader. If you compliment them on, something that they're wearing, that's a way in to really like break that ice down with them. They don't care so much about risk. They just want to know that they're buying the greatest and the best and being treated, extra special.
Yeah.
And we have our nurturing. That is, they're not inside or outside the box. They want to repurpose or recycle the box. They are, warm and friendly, and eye contact and loyalty is very important to them. So, in a business meeting, you're not going to be wanting to check your phone, or, you're breaking that connection with them, and they care more about the bigger picture, impact over income. So coming in and talking all about all the money that you can make them, probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then we have our knowledge. Our knowledge are wanting to re-engineer the box and make it better. They're really interested in information, research, and science. They can tend to be the ones that are more skeptical. Very rarely will they make a buying decision in the moment. They need time to think about it and do their own research. So yeah, that's a quick synopsis of the code. Sorry about that. I jumped ahead.
That's great. That's really fascinating. And, you know, a lot of us, I think when we think about the marketing and sales process, think about tailoring the benefits to the audience in general, but I don't think we spend a lot of time thinking about what's important to that buyer and how to position those benefits in a way that actually speaks to them. I can see the power in that for sure.
Absolutely. So when I go in and I work with my clients, you know, once we get them understanding each of these codes, we'll go in and say, okay, your product or service, what can you focus on for a blueprint that, you know, really can meet that need? What about your product or your service can meet that action needs? And then they're able to we really should have at least 4 sales presentations, but typically we have 1. Our own. You know, coming from direct sales, it's what's your story? What's your story? Tell your story. And it was always my story in my language. And it doesn't always attract and reach all of the other people.
That's a really, I think a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads now going, that's interesting. 4 sales presentations instead of 1. That's true. We do think about these all from sort of our own perspective. Do you find that people use one of these 4 personality types to kind of filter out clients who probably wouldn't work with them very well? Is there some filtration that might be working there, or?
You know, I haven't had that experience in terms of, I mean, really, we like to create labels and put people in boxes. The truth is we really are a combination of all 4 of these. That's why we call it BankCode. And we do have, when we go into more in-depth training, we have a 20-question assessment, which lets you know how high you are in each one. And there's certain people that are really high in 2, 3, or even 4. And to me, I've got a theory that those are the really successful salespeople that just can easily make it look like an art.
Move back and forth between them.
You flex. So yeah, a lot of people can be close and they're easy, you know, it's easier for them to flex. But no, what I overwhelmingly see is people just love being able to use this to improve their communication. And you know, people that used to irritate you or, you know, hurt your feelings, or, you know, it turns into compassion and understanding, because it's like, oh, it's not personal. It's just how they show up in the world, and it's different than me. So
that's interesting. Can people use this to hire people, to hire the right roles in their organization as well? Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting. It's been around for 20 years, but it's really starting to take hold and spread quickly right now. People are understanding that this, you know, is something that's different. San Francisco State University did a white paper in 2016 that scientifically validated that, yes, this is unique, this is different, and you can predict buying behavior in 90 seconds or less. And so that's starting to take hold. So colleges and universities, Sherry's been asked to, you know, she's taught some entrepreneurs at Harvard and UC Berkeley. And so it's starting to kind of bubble up all over, which is really exciting.
That's
but
nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a certain type for your sales team, or you're lacking something and you really understand where that need is, absolutely. And it can definitely improve employee communication. And I have a fellow trainer she was a general manager at a restaurant. And she took the cards and she coded her whole staff, put everybody's codes up on the office door, gave them a little bit of education. And she learned that her entire chef cooking, you know, all the cooks in the kitchen were nurturing. And she's high action, and she would just come in and say, hey, we got to do this, 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 this. And then she learned they were all nurtured. They love to cook and take care of people. And so she adjusted how she was communicating with them, and it just made a huge difference. And bonused all over the place. They were the -- store, and it really helps. I mean, it all comes down to communication.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that. And, you know, I was just thinking, when you talk about the nurture role, you know, if I was going to hire someone, or someone wanted to hire somebody to be the client liaison or the customer success person, you'd want to, it feels like you'd want someone in that nurture role who's going to be really good at understanding that function.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We've, that you can definitely, once you kind of learn about this and start seeing there are people that are, very, very nice, great people, but their nurturing is last in that role, and they don't have as easy of a connection and ease in connecting with people. And so, if you're looking for a liaison, you're going to want somebody that just in their natural state, it comes easier for them.
Right. Absolutely. In my own business, I've found that's an important thing. That's a blind spot for me. So we always get someone in client relations who says, Frank, it's their birthday. We might want to do something nice for them. Oh, people have birthdays? I didn't even know that. I want to pivot for a second and talk about specifically how you're working with customers. Can you walk us through kind of the process you take your clients through that help them integrate this into what they do?
Absolutely. So we do it one of two ways. I mean, I have, the solopreneurs that come in. And so I offer an introduction to bank seminar periodically, usually 1 or 2 a month, where people will come to a location that I've arranged. They learn about, in 60 minutes, they learn about the basics. And then from there, decide if they want to implement the technology into their business, or if they want to take one of our, we call it a BankCode summit. It's a 2-day course where day 1 is the fundamentals. We get 8 hours into the good stuff of this. And then day 2 is speed coding, where we get even further in, and then it's actually kind of like speed dating. You sit across from somebody, you have a 3-minute conversation, you have your little bank poker chips, you arrange them in order of what you think their code is, they reveal their code, and then you have 3 minutes to talk. So it's so much fun, and it's great to just see the light bulbs go off, and people really learn things. So as they engage in that process, they become a customer of mine. And so my customer support, is about checking in with them, answering questions, helping them, come up with a plan for how you're going to implement it, your existing customer base, how you're going to implement it into when you meet with a new potential customer. The second is going into an office and speaking to a sales team, on one of their weekly or monthly meetings. And then from there, if they would like to engage, it's tailoring a package, because it's pretty hard to ask a whole office to take 2 days off for a training. So it's okay. Do you want, what can we do in 4 hours or 6 hours? And so it's a very tailored process, which I love. I'm very high action. So I like the freedom and flexibility to make my own.
Yeah, make it work for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, focusing for a second on the sort of smaller business and the solopreneurs, as so it sounds like first they're learning about this, making sure that they understand it and can absorb the concepts, identify people when they're talking to them, and understand how to adapt the communication. And then are you helping them integrate that into their own sort of sales and marketing content? You earlier mentioned website and probably sales presentation and
yes. Yeah. So for instance, I'm just starting because we had our AI that just came out last month. So what I'm doing right now is offering a pilot program to solopreneurs or anybody that's interested in improving their business, where for 30 days, we're going to work together. They'll get access to the AI tool, the online bank pass where they can crack codes. And then it's 2 1-hour group session trainings with me via Zoom. And then there's a 30-minute one-on-one where we kind of go over, okay, what are the numbers for your business? Where do you want it to grow in the 30 days? And, really working with them, helping them through that process of specifically integrating this tool into their business and, tracking the results. And
that's nice. So you have a fundamentally a group, a training piece, as well as sort of implementation support. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. It's training, it's tools, and help supporting and implementation.
Great.
So.
And in your estimation, sort of when, I know everyone's going to say like everyone needs this, but when When do you think is sort of a good time for a business to start to look at this as something they should be integrating into their sales process?
Ideally, we know the statistics for new businesses, and it's, especially depending on the market, what marketplace you're in, it can be pretty tough. Like, 1 out of 2 businesses fail after the first, year or two. So, I mean, ideally, I would say the earlier the better, especially if you're implementing, new procedures and systems and, training and different things. If the earlier you can bring that on, the better. But honestly, it's just at any point where you're able to just bring in a tool. It's not a big distraction. It doesn't take away a whole lot of time. It's not like, you have to go to 6 weeks of training to bring this in. You can literally use it right away. So
and it sounds like also, I guess, if you're a solopreneur who is having sales conversations where they feel frustrating or disconnected in some way, that's probably a sign, right? That that something's off in your communication. So if that's something that's happening on a regular basis, then that's
great.
Yeah.
Okay. And Salesforce.com, I'm not sure what year they came out with the statistics, but they found that 89% of salespeople do not feel prepared for their presentation. 66% of potential customers are turned off by the presentation. So it's a pretty prevalent.
I've been to a few of those presentations, so I can assure you.
And I'm a former, I used to say that I was allergic to the word sales. Like in my direct selling business, I never sold anything. I just shared. I don't sell. I just share, because I think we've all had that experience. When we do our training, we talk about cracking the code or cracking the vial of vinegar, where you've said the wrong thing or somebody just is so different than you. And you're just like, ew, that was just icky. So it's funny that, I laugh. I'm like, I'm this former person that hated sales. And now I teach, I'm in sales and I teach on sales and I train on sales, but I love it because this to me has the ability to get rid of the icky sales situation. Sales is amazing. Everybody in sales has a product that they love. I hope.
Right. That sort of does feel like step one.
It does. Yeah. I mean, if you're selling something that you don't believe in, that's probably, we got other issues.
Issues, right.
I mean, most people love their product, and they have people that need their product, and sales is a great, amazing process. When it's done, authentically and correctly. So.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that sort of cracking the vial of vinegar. I've never heard that expression before, but it resonates, right? Because people who really don't like sales, either being sold to or selling themselves, is that feeling that you have to get into some emotional manipulation tactics to push through. And it sounds like what you're saying is that a lot of that, moving into emotional manipulation is just because you're not making progress because you didn't align with the values of the person that you're talking to fundamentally. And if you knew what those were and you knew how to talk to that person, you wouldn't have to resort to those kinds of tactics to begin with.
Absolutely. And I think some people can kind of, and by the way, the nurturing and the knowledge are typically the ones that are most like to sales. Just a heads up on that. But some people will say, well, isn't this manipulation? Like you're going to find out about your client and you're going to change how you talk. And it's not. It's here's all of the benefits of our product. Here's what's important to you. And I'm going to come with what's important to you. And then there's a lot less of that miscommunication, which can then resort to more of that manipulative feeling.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where people might think that, but it feels like anytime you do something in a conversation to make the other person feel more comfortable, whether it's letting them talk about themselves or anything, is essentially a tactic to build relationships. So if that's manipulative, then we're kind of all in trouble as a society. It feels like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Amanda, this has been really great. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I'd love to continue to talk about this, but I know you're super busy and I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. One last question before we go. If people are interested in hearing more about this and connecting with you on how to leverage this, what's a good place for them to go to start that dialogue with you?
I think the easiest place, my email, which we can put on there, but what I wanted to offer is if anybody wanted a complimentary personality assessment, they can go to bankcode.com/Amanda. And
Perfect.
they'll get the cards, they can arrange them, they can put their information in. And then, my email address is abundanceonpurpose@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to give some complimentary help.
Yeah, that's an amazing offer. Thank you very much. And that link to the assessment is below the video here. It's on the show notes page if you're listening to the audio. If you're out and about listening, come on back to the show notes page and you can click on through. Thanks so much for offering that, Amanda. It's very generous of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Frank. I really appreciate getting to talk to you this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. And thank you very much, everyone, for coming today to this episode of the 6 to 7 Figure Show. I've been your host, Frank Bria. We know you got a lot of things to do. And if you're spending time with us, really appreciate you taking the time to listen and to learn more about what you can do to grow your business. And we'll see you next time. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.